morning and welcome to Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM, the sound of Lagos. I trust we all had an amazing night rest. Well, and I hope that we also had quite a restful weekend. The very last weekend in the month of September, today being the 25th of September 2023. Well, I also hope that September was a productive month for you. I hope it was a beautiful one. Well, you still have 3 months to go. You still have a few days left, actually, in the month of September. So whatever it is that you had mapped out for yourself to achieve in the month of September, I'm still rooting for you, and I hope that you get it done. My name is Omobola Sandra. This is Trends in the Papers, where we look through the major trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. We have our papers here with us, as usual, The Guardian, Vanguard, we have The Punch, and of course we have The Nation newspaper in a particular order. All right, so we'll run this up until 8:30, and today we have an exclusive. But before we go into all of that, it is our tradition that every Monday morning we bring you up to speed as regards the major trending stories from over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Let's see what we have. All right. I'll start with this. We got from the Daily Trust newspaper, outrage over tribunal description of NNPP supporters as bandits. Well, we'll get more scoop on that one later on. We also have from the Guardian, my ambition is to support President Tinubu to succeed, says Governor Bello. We also have insecurity. Failure isn't an option, Army tells troops. That's called from Daily Trust. 10 years after privatization, darkness persists amid huge electricity bill, from the Independent newspaper. We also have RTEAN. TUC threatens to shut down Lagos on Monday, which is today, and that was gotten from The Sun. Nurse arrested for injecting Mobad, unregistered, says Lagos NANNM, and that was gotten from Nigerian Tribune. All right, so from Sunday, the major trending stories we had were terrorists abduct scores of varsity students in Zamfara University. We also have Tinubu orders immediate rescue of abducted Zamfara students. WIKE revokes 22 allocations, give 3-month grace to 21 embassies and 168 others. Federal government announces $13.5 billion investment commitment to boost oil output. Target 2.1 million barrels per day by 2024. That's quite a high one. We look forward to that. APC national chairmanship. Will loyalty to Tinubu help Ganduje keep unstable throne? That's an interesting one. Be wary of Tinubu's propaganda onslaught. Atiku cautions Nigeria. And that was taken from Vanguard newspaper. Akeredolu return changes the narratives in Ondo politics. Tribunals. APC, PDP, Labour Party take huge blows in Ondo, Ogun, Oyo, Ekiti. And that was taken from Vanguard. Probe missing $15 billion and 200 billion naira of oil revenue. Serap tells Tinubu. Tribunal to deliver judgment on Lagos governorship election on Monday. That was taken from Vanguard. How Nigeria's weak fiscal monetary policy framework scares foreign investors. That was taken from Daily Independent. And in the world of sports, Nigeria dethrones Egypt to win ITTF African Para Championships, taken from Premium Times. And Osimhen misses penalty, extends goal drought to 4 games. And that's where those were the major trending stories from over the weekend, and they were compiled and reported by Kelvin Nwafili. Thank you very much. Now let's move on to the major trending stories for today. We'll be running this till 8:30. We'll take a break and then move on to Mainland Focus, all right, by 8:40, where you, our dear listener, gets to be a part of the conversation. All right. Now, I do not do this alone. I have an analyst joining in to give depth to the stories that we're going to be looking through this morning. So, Fuhad Sahid will be joining in via the phone line for the first half of the show before we go into the stories trending this morning. All right. So whilst we try to connect with Fuhad, we have our papers here. We'll start with the Guardian newspaper, and the major headline on the front page of the Guardian: despite 2.8 trillion naira subsidy, power averages 3,000 megawatts in 10 years. Well, take a short break. Hello, good morning, Fuad.
Yeah, good morning, Sandra. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Very good.
Awesome. Awesome. You're welcome. All right. So the major headline on the front page of the Guardian newspaper: despite 2.8 trillion naira subsidy, power averages 3,000 megawatts in 10 years. And it's quite an extensive one that we have here on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Statistics are all there, but the story is on page 6 of the Guardian. And let's see what we have from that particular story. We have riders here as well. Privatization has failed. Review necessary, says stakeholders. Disco's underpayment hits 47 billion naira monthly. ATC&C loses at 75%. So despite the despondent state of electricity supply in Nigeria, the federal government has spent nothing less than 2.8 trillion naira to subsidize electricity consumption from 2015 to June 2023. And there are indications that the tariff shortfall may climb to a record high in the second half of this year, following the suspension of the sector's multi-year tariff order implemented through the service-based tariff. And the service-based tariff had relieved the government and passed the burden of the sector's inefficiencies to consumers. So, Fuhad, we're spending so much and we have so little, basically. So this is another issue of subsidy conversation, and if is it that we don't understand what subsidy is, or we don't know how exactly it's supposed to work?
Well, again, Sandra, the issue of subsidy on electricity is one that a lot of critical thinkers would say comes with a lot of questions that we may not get answers. On a simple outlook, an average businessman will tell you that the best kind of business to invest your money in should be something of essential service. It's almost like guaranteed profit. And if you agree with me, power supply is one of those essential services that, could guarantee, good business, good profit, and good bottom line for any business person. But unfortunately, in Nigeria, it's a different story. Despite the privatization done under Goodluck Jonathan, we still have a situation where nothing has improved. Operators, license holders, investors are complaining of lack of profit and all of that. So it means that there's something wrong. I don't want us to waste too much time, Sandra, on this particular story. I think we already know the background to be. President Muhammadu Buhari said it all during his tenure. That look, a lot of the guys who got licenses to operate in the power sector got it as a result of political patronage. There was no business model. There was no good thinking to it. It was just more for political patronage. A lot of them don't even have the structure to run businesses in that sector. They don't even understand what they were going into. It was just that, there was an opportunity. You had somebody in government, you could get the license, and the structure became extremely faulty. And that is why, up till now, nothing has changed. Apart from the fact that, again, the middle line of the energy sector is still, a lot of problem. I'm talking about the transmission part of it. Generation is still a problem. Distribution is a problem, despite the privatization done at that time. So, again, I agree with the stakeholders or experts who are saying that we need to review that privatization policy of that time. I think a lot of the licenses need to be revoked. And I think this is the time to appeal to the Minister of Power, Mr. Delabu, to quickly look at activating the legal framework for a revitalization of the energy sector. You are already legal framework on ground. Starting with the Buhari government, the local government also.
Hello, Ford.
Yes.
Sorry, could you move a bit?
I'm with you. Can you hear me now?
No, it's yes, I can hear you, but it's just I can hear just bits of what you're saying. I don't know if you can just move a bit so we can get better quality. Or let's try to reconnect. All right, so would appreciate that. Okay, so let's just try to reconnect. Probably, well, the rains are here. A lot of things are happening with networks all over. But then this is Trends in the Papers. For those who are just joining in, we're looking through major stories on the front pages of our dailies. And we're currently discussing epileptic power supply, despite trillions of naira that have been pumped into it, and despite the in spite of the fact that the sector is heavily privatized, there's still a lot of questions. Just as Fuhad has been trying to make us understand. Hello, Fuad.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, so what I'm saying is that I think this is the time to talk to the Minister of Power, and Mr. Adelabu, to activate the legal framework on ground for a complete unbundling of the power sector. The unbundling started with the legal framework put in place by President Muhammadu Buhari. And I think the current president has also done something about how to ensure that state smaller units can generate, transmit, and also distribute. This current structure is not working, and we have to do away with it. That's just the reality. Whatever government needs to do to unbundle the whole sector completely, from generation to distribution, we just have to do it. And whether maybe we need to, maybe compensate people who have licenses to revoke them from them, so that again we can fully activate this new legal framework for generation, transmission, and distribution of power in the country. And I think that until we do that, nothing will change. And all of these things about subsidy for power supply beat me. I don't know where that is coming from. That we're already into about 2.8 trillion and nothing has changed. What are we subsidizing, Sandra? The reality is that we're just subsidizing corruption. We are subsidizing inefficiency. And nothing will change. We just continue to throw money into a bottomless pit of corruption. So again, since we have a legal framework already for the unbundling of the sector, can we just activate it immediately? So that we can do away with this, very, very wrong structure that we are running, that will not bring any change to the power sector.
Thank you very much, Fuad. Well, let's also look at, aside from the privatization issue, there's also a reaction here, putting this against the fuel subsidy issue, saying that, like fuel subsidy, electricity subsidy is also prone to abuse and fraud with the high level of capacity. Now we have the fact that given the financial constraints of the government, the liberalization of the power sector remain the only way out. Fuad, do you agree?
No, this is what I've just said. It's more like a repetition of what I've just said, that look, you can say liberalization. I think it's just a complete unbundling. Unbundling means, you open it up to smaller units to participate in the sector so that we don't have this lumped up idea. And it has to be a situation where you can generate, transmit, and distribute within your unit. That's complete unbundling. And I think that's what we already have in the electricity reform bill that has just been passed.
So should we also have a removal of subsidy in the power sector?
When we unbundle, we don't need to subsidize, Sandra. Right. Honestly, okay. You allow market forces, but again, this story about market forces should be about a proper structure. You don't talk about market forces when you don't put the framework in place for businesses to thrive. Like I said, we shouldn't be struggling with the power sector. Why? Okay, look at the telecom sector. Who is subsidizing the telecom sector? Is anybody giving the telecom sector money?
Which brings me the question. Which brings me the question. We're talking about liberalization, but then we also have privatization that has not been able to help us in any way in the past 10 years.
Because of vested interest and corruption. That's what I said. That the reason why the power sector is not working, unlike the telecom sector, is that we had the issue of vested interest when that privatization was done. Okay. Vested interest and corruption. That was what President Muhammadu Buhari said, that look, a lot of the guys who are, stakeholders in the sector now, who got those licenses, had no business in that sector. There was no policy framework, there was no operational framework, there was no operational structure for that sector to thrive. Unlike the telecom sector, where you have proper privatization, where you have people who really understood what the business was about, they got in their money, they got in the structure, and are able to improve on the facility. Unlike, let me tell you, Sandra, as an investor, if everything was right, for me, I think the power sector should even be more profitable than the telecom sector, if you do the right thing. Because it is one essential part of our life. Nobody can do without power, Sandra. Even if you have data on your phone, you still have to charge it. So I don't even think the telecom sector is more important than the power sector. But unfortunately, whereas you have smart investors, proper investors in the telecom sector, what you have in the power sector in Nigeria are just political jobbers, cronies and associates of the political class who have no business in that business.
Oh well, just as you have rightly said earlier, or just as you rightly said earlier, there's so much questions to ask as regards, as it is with so many other things in Nigeria. But then more details on page 6. Despite 2.8 trillion naira subsidy power averages 3,000 megawatts in 10 years. And, we have all of the breakdown of the amount that's been spent since 2015, with the highest being in 2019, when we spent about 528 billion naira. All right. So, more details on page.
Subsidizing darkness.
So, well, I'm also looking at, the aside from the, generation, the grid itself also is something that I think they should also look into. But then,
that one. Look at the name itself, grid. Anything that comes with grid, would it try?
Moving on now, we have here private sector CSOs kick as NLC decides on indefinite strike tomorrow. And that is also on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. CSOs claim NLC leadership working for opposition. Strike to further impoverish workers, says NECA. TUC insists on shutting down activities in Lagos today over RTEAN. MC Oluomo-led Lagos Park Committee warns TUC against protest. So, before we go into NLC and whether or not, the strike is the most viable option for them at this point, members and affiliates of TUC plan to shut down commercial activities in Lagos today over an alleged illegal ban on Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria in Lagos, RTEAN. And so the face-off between TUC and the Lagos state government is over the lingering leadership crisis within the state chapter of RTEAN, which, according to TUC President Festus Osifo, the union admits several efforts to get the Lagos state government to obey the ruling of the court on the crisis, but then to no avail. So, as it is now, TUC will be going on strike in Lagos. That's in Lagos, deciding on the day members will embark on an indefinite. Yes. So as it is now, every worker in Nigeria will go on strike. The only thing, I'm looking at the TUC, RTEAN, and Parks and Garages chairman, MC Oluomo, looking at all of that. Vlad, we talked about this some months ago as regards, the fact that Lagos state government is having issues with implementing, the court order that RTN is supposed to stand. What stage now TUC is planning on going on strike in Lagos, and then you also have MC Oluomo talking tough.
The issue with road transport management in Lagos and union activities of road transport workers is that it has been heavily politicized. You have a situation where MC Oluomo and his team, whether it's the National Union of Road Transport Workers or the Parks and Garages, which we hear now has been disbanded, because what we saw, recent reports have shown that MC Oluomo and his team, who were initially in the Parks and Garages management, are now returned to NURTW. So whether he's back or he's not back, the reality is that MC Oluomo and his team, presents themselves like an affiliate of the government. They are supposed to be a union who you expect to be independent and should be more on the side of organized labor, whether TUC or NLC. But it's clear that what you have in Lagos is pro-government. Pro-government, they are in bed with government, they act out the activities of government and the agenda of government as far as union management of parks and garages are concerned. So it's going to be a very tough one for the TUC around activities of commercial bus operators in Lagos. I don't know how they are going to be able to do that. Yes, there's a problem between NURTW and RTEAN. A lot of people don't know. NURTW is National Union of Road Transport Workers. RTEAN is Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria. But both of these unions are registered, controlling different structure of commercial bus management in Lagos. I think RTEAN belongs to TUC, while NURTW belongs to NLC. That's also the problem again. You have too many unions and sub-unions belonging to different affiliate groups. So that court in judgment recognizes the activities of RTEAN, which was disbanded the last time. And one would have thought that it would have been reinstated. So what TUC is saying is that, look, that court order should be obeyed. RTEAN is supposed to return to, managing parks and garages the way they used to work with NURTW in the past. So, but again, see, all of these things is just completely messed up. again, when corruption, when politics comes into simple issues, it gets muddled up. But what I do know is that it's going to be very difficult for TUC to come to Lagos and ground commercial bus operations in Lagos, especially because of the loyalty of NURTW and their leadership to the government of the state. But whatever that is, we'll see what the TUC were able to do with their members, if indeed they have the strength to ground commercial bus operations in Lagos.
All right, now let's move on to NLC and their proposed indefinite strike. The organized private sector of Nigeria has called on federal government and labor unions to work harder to avert this looming strike that will one way or the other disrupt the socio-economic activities across the country. And this appeal has been made to NLC, as NLC is set to meet tomorrow to make a decision on whether or not they will be going on that indefinite strike. Fuhad, I know we've had this conversation last week. We've asked, listeners as well, that what strategy do you think the NLC should employ in this quest of theirs?
Well, again, when you say strategy, it's really not in my place to tell them what strategy to adopt. I just think that they need to come up with a better strategy. The government
An indefinite strike.
Well, definite or indefinite, a strike is a strike. Again, people have questioned this idea of warning strike, the last warning strike, whether it achieved any purpose, really. Some people said, well, it was just a way for NLC to test the waters, to see whether people were going to comply. And according to the NLC president, Joe Ajaero, he said that warning strike worked and achieved its purpose. Now, the issue of indefinite strike would come with a lot of reaction from government. Again, one of the first reactions I'm thinking the government may take now is to run to the industrial court to stop them from going on any industrial action. Apart from that, how do they get their members to obey this order completely? The last warning strike, there were some members did not even obey it in Lagos. Many of us did not even feel that there was a strike action. You understand? So, the strategy should be about getting all their affiliate members obeying that strike order, if indeed that's the option for the NLC at this time. I'm not looking at the merit or demerit of a strike action now. You asked me about strategy, and I think the strategy should be about them coming up with an idea that ensures that all their members and affiliate unions join the strike. But if they have a situation where some members are picking or choosing whether to join or not, then that's going to be a problem for them as far as strike action is concerned.
Thank you very much, Fuhad. As it is now, CSOs are speaking. I'm not even going to go into CSOs claiming that NLC leadership is working for opposition. That's another thing.
Sandra, we have to be careful with CSOs, though.
Exactly. So
Sandra,
I'm not going to go into that one.
There are too many things going on now. It could just be one or two mushroom kangaroo CSOs making this statement now. So when they say CSOs, we have to know which. Just claiming to be a CSO. We've seen no manner of things on TV, where people call press conferences and half of the people in that place are sleeping. They don't even know why they are there.
Oh, Fuad, I remember this particular one you're talking about.
Remember that woman that was sleeping.
Thank you very much, Fuad. More details of that on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. This is still trends in the papers. We also have here on the front page, WIKE gives Yuguda, Lambo, NCS, 186 others ultimatum. So there's a 3-month grace that has been given to everyone who, were given notice as regards their undeveloped allocations in Abuja. Yes, in Abuja. The story is on page 3. So 3 months, do something about your land or we take over.
Well, like I said, it depends on the conditions of allocation. I do know that there are government allocations that comes with specific instructions and conditions that within a certain period, you must develop the land. For example, in Lagos State, if you get a land allocation in Lagos State, it comes with a 90 days notice that within 90 days, you must start development on that land. Because the expectation is that government land allocation is not supposed to be speculated. It shouldn't be about speculation, where you just buy, keeping open to resell in the future. It is supposed to help with housing development and all of that. So if that condition came with that land allocation, then the government in Abuja has a ground to revoke those plots. So it's possible. But I don't have the details of the conditions of allocation. So
what they're pitching, yes, I get, but what they're pitching on is the fact that these owners are actually obtained building plan approval, which is a prerequisite for development of any property in FCT. So if you have a building plan approval and you've still not done anything as regards, developing that building plan on your allocation, your plot, maybe that's the crux that they're looking at now, because the FCT appealed
I'm with you.
Okay, thank you. The FCTA appealed to affected public institutions that have been allocated plots to commence development, failure of which their titles will be revoked, for continued contravention of the terms of development of rights of occupancy.
The terms of development, you see the same thing we're saying. You could actually go ahead to get building approval, but still not develop. You understand? Okay. But if the term says within so period, you must have built on the land, then if they have failed to do within that period, then there are grounds for revocation of that plot by the FCT. And that's what I'm saying. But I have a feeling that, because these guys are not the ordinary people we are talking about. These are influential Nigerians. These are Nigerians who have a lot of money to hire lawyers. And I think that most of these cases may end up being settled in court.
Thank you very much. More details on page 3, of The Guardian. Also, very quickly, on page 3, we have body laments only 84 pediatric dentists for over 200 million Nigerians. And very quickly, what that is, well, that's quite an unfortunate one. But what it's basically telling us this morning is that Nigeria currently has 84 qualified pediatric dentists to attend to their children. And that's coming from Dr. Adegbuluwe, of the National President of Nigerian Association of Pediatric Dentistry. So 84 in the whole country. And Fuad, you and I know that a large chunk of that 84 would either be in Abuja or Lagos or Port Harcourt or, the major cities. In the urban centers,
major urban cities, It's just a reflection again on the state of health, the health sector in the country. These are pediatric dentists. We even ask ourselves, how many pediatricians do we have? Qualified pediatricians. How many pediatric nurses do we have? Qualified pediatric nurses do we have? Because again, when we talk about pediatric medicine, we are talking about child care for babies and children. So and that's also supposed to be one sector that we need to, one part of the medical sector we are supposed to pay attention to. Children, medical care for kids and babies. How many pediatric hospitals do we even have, to start with, Sandra? When I say pediatric, proper pediatric hospitals. A lot of pediatric hospitals in Nigeria, Sandra, don't even have proper pediatric facilities. No incubators, no pediatric doctors, no well-trained pediatric nurses. Because the child care and care for babies and children is different from general medicine, Sandra. It's not every doctor that can attend to a child. It's different training altogether. So, again, the story is talking about pediatric dentists. But I'm even looking at proper physicians who can attend to babies at all levels. How many do we have in the country? How many pediatric hospitals do we have? Well-equipped pediatric hospitals do we have in the country? Apart from Lagos. And that's why I keep thanking former Governor Fashola, former minister, what he did in Lagos with the mother and child hospitals that he built in different parts of Lagos. And some pediatric hospitals that he was able to build along that. But go to other states. Let us even start with Ogun State. How many proper pediatric hospitals do we have in Ogun State? How many pediatric doctors do we have in Ogun State? Or your state, 𝗪𝗼𝗅. Go and look at it. And so you see some of these governors, you ask yourself, what exactly are they even doing with the allocation of their state? And these are the little things that can really touch the people, that can have meaningful impact on the people. So it's a big problem. We are talking about pediatric dentists. I don't know. So even start with how many pediatric hospitals do we have in the country? Well equipped. You'll be amazed that we don't really have many that can take care of proper pediatric.
All right, thank you very much for the stories on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. It's quite an unfortunate story. But then finally from the Guardian would be taking the knots in Tinubu's lofty debt servicing plan. And that is on page 12 of the Guardian. Let's see what, it's an editorial, but then it's an interesting one. The huge public debt servicing burden on Nigeria has been an issue of great concern to Nigerians as well as the international community, especially the multilateral financial institutions. So In the twilight of the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, as much as 98% of total revenues that accrued to the federal government was used to service public debt. Now, refreshingly, the Tinubu administration has committed to reversing this trend. The president once appropriately labeled it destructive and clearly unsustainable. Now, looking at the current administration's plans on getting it right as regards debt servicing plan and also revenue generation and whatnot. Talk is cheap, as is commonly stated. There are a lot of issues and all of that. And there's also saying that, they have to make some difficult changes. But so far, Fuad, are we pointing or are we going in the right direction as regards debt servicing?
You see, the plans of government, it's not a problem really. It's a good one that the government is looking at resolving our debt crisis. It's become very unsustainable. You can't have a situation where you are using 98% of a revenue to service debt. So again, you look at the debt repayment plan, debt servicing plan, debt obligations and all of that of the government, and it's okay, a good one. But the problem is this. All of the plan goes back to the ordinary people. Every effort of government now towards resolving this debt crisis seems to be about further burdening the ordinary people. You remove subsidy because you need enough money, you don't want to be borrowing, you increase taxes, you want to remove tariff from electricity, subsidy from electricity, what's it called, import duties have gone up. The revenue drive, Sandra, the revenue drive is about creating more burden for the ordinary people. Whereas the rich and the super rich, the political class, are still living their normal life. Governors are still employing aids they need and the ones they don't need. They are still buying. Look at yesterday, 𝗪𝗁 said it, that there's hardly any of our governors that have not bought the latest Lexus. That is about 300 million naira each, that bulletproof one. And in their convoy, some of them have about 5 or 6 in their convoy. So they are still living larger than life. They are still wasteful. They are still, going into white elephant projects. They are still employing. The size of government is still very large. Until now, nobody talked about the 𝗧𝗏 report. They have talked about how to slim down the cost of governance, to bring down the cost of governance. If we are going to solve our revenue problem, Sandra, it's not just about creating structures to further create poverty and make the people poorer. It's about looking at the size of government, looking at the way we also deploy the limited resources we have, and also about fixing corruption in the system. For example, the oil sector, why are we not producing enough crude oil? That's supposed to be one of the easiest ways for us to generate enough revenue. Why is it that our refineries are not working to the extent that our scarce resources, we are still deploying it to import PMS? So all of the hard work that the government is supposed to do, they are not doing. Instead, they are looking at the easiest way out, and for the government, the easy way out, to create pain and poverty for the people. Yes, we agree that we are getting to a point where we cannot continue to borrow because, this debt has become unsustainable. That's why I laugh at people who kept justifying the borrowing in the last administration. We have people saying that, the window of borrowing was still okay. We can continue to borrow. Our debt to GDP is still about 34%. We still have about 70-something% window to continue to borrow. I'm sure those people are listening now that the government is now crying and saying our debt situation has become unsustainable and we need to fix it. Yes, the government must fix it, but not to continue to cause more pain on ordinary people.
Thank you very much, Fuad. Rightly put. The story is on page 12 of the Guardian newspaper. This is Trends in the Papers on mainland 98.3 FM, and we're looking through major trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. We're done with the Guardian. Let's move on now very quickly to the Punch newspaper. Yes, I forgot to mention this earlier. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. I just saw some comments there. Thank you very much for joining our live streaming platforms. Now on to the Punch, the major headline, $10 billion debt. CBN defaults on payments to banks as dollar nears 1,000 naira. And the writers there says CBN banks to begin new negotiations over restructured dollar debts. Travelers' parents groan as banks ration forex. BDC operators advise federal government. Fuad, can we or can we not survive without dollar?
What are we producing? We are still heavily import dependent now. So how do we want to do it? Even our CNS, the one that God gave us, He gave us crude for us to just build refineries, refine, and buy at a local,
Fuad,
currency.
can you move position a bit? It's breaking.
Can you hear me now?
But it can, but the quality is kind of low. It's breaking up.
Just a bit.
Okay.
All right. Is it better?
Let's reconnect. We'll reconnect with you. Thank you very much, Fuad. Really appreciate. All right. So well, it's heavily dollarized. That's just a conversation we're having now. The major headline here is talking about CBN defaults on payments to banks as we have dollar nearing 1,000 naira. So we have the slump of the naira. We have the fact that manufacturers are fearing closure. We have the fact that inflation is also becoming an issue. The current exchange rate would inevitably, one way or the other, lead to a hike in the price of products, given the toll it will take on manufacturers to access foreign exchange. And then we're also talking about scarcity, the fact that the volatility of the local currency has continued to underpin the nation's slow economic growth, and also there is serious confidence crisis in the foreign exchange market that is fueling an unprecedented speculative onslaught of the naira. There's just so much to talk about as regards this particular conversation. I don't think we can talk about it enough. Over the past 2 weeks, after the Central Bank of Nigeria promised to clear over $10 billion foreign exchange debt owed the deposit money banks, the CBN is yet to do so. And this is as naira is now even going as high as 990 to 995 by BDCs on Friday, Saturday in Lagos, Abuja, and Kano. As it is now, the immediate past acting CBN governor, Fọláṣadé Ṣónúbí, on September 6th said the Apex Bank had concluded negotiation on dollar debts with commercial banks, disclosing that all foreign exchange backlogs will be cleared within 1 to 2 weeks. But then here we are, they're still having that issue. And I don't know if you heard all of the major issues that we're having as regards, this crisis. The naira is slumping, inflation is imminent, manufacturers are fearing closure due to, the fact that they can't access forex. There's also the fact that the high demand pressure at the I&E window and the parallel markets, due to lack of sufficient liquidity, have also been fueling a widening gap between the I&E window and the parallel market rates. There's also the fact that there's a serious confidence crisis in the foreign exchange market, due to the speculative onslaught of the naira. I don't know, there's just fear. There's just fear everywhere.
Which fear?
There's
no fear anywhere. It is what it is.
Yes.
Sandra. This. I just laugh when I hear the I&E window because there's nothing in that window. Nobody's getting anything from that window.
It's closed. Is it closed?
Yeah, there's nothing there now. Ask anybody. Is anybody getting anything from that I&E window? It's just a window that the government is using to do abracadabra for us. Because if you ask them now, they'll tell you the I&E window rate is $7.70 per dollar. $7.70 to $1. But there's no. But look, if you want to get dollar now, Sandra, you will have to go to the black market. That's the only place you get dollars. And at that market again, it is determined by people who are speculators. They've dominated the market. They have a strong hold on the market. And it's as if the government is helpless. The grandstanding of the immediate past acting CBN governor, Ṣónúbí, has ended now. It was grandstanding. Oh, they are going to give speculators a bloody nose. Blah, blah, blah will happen. Something will happen. Nothing will happen, Sandra. I said it at that time, that no matter what the government thinks they are going to throw into that forex market, there's a structure of speculators in place, the big guys who dominate that market, who are going to smuggle, they are going to swallow everything, and that's what they have done. And they are the guys who are determining what is happening. It is Sandra, whether anybody likes it or not, and I've said it, you don't need to be an economic expert to understand some of these things. Until we do the hard work, until we do what is right, a single monetary or fiscal policy would never resolve our forex issue. Whether you like it or not, bring all of the experts from in the world, bring them from Harvard, bring them from anywhere in the world, to come and begin to talk about some very funny monetary or fiscal policy to fix our forex issues. It will never work. The simple issue is for us to do the hard work. I keep saying it. Until the government roll up his sleeves, buckle his shoes and do the hard work. For us to begin to do things that will earn us forex, nothing will change. What are we manufacturing? What are we producing? What are the sources of our foreign exchange earnings? Sandra, let us even start to see that. Okay, what is it that we do in the country that gives us forex?
Crude.
The oil sector that is supposed to be the easiest way out for us, where we're supposed to look at and then begin to have enough forex, we are not even doing well there. OPEC gave us a quota of about 1.8 million barrels per day. We are struggling with 1.1 million barrels per day. In between all of that, there is about 50% oil theft of our crude exports happening. So we are not even making enough money from that area. Agriculture that is supposed to also help us. A lot of our agricultural produce are not up to international standards. Nobody takes them serious in the Committee of Nations. So what is that thing that, because look, it's about balance of trade, Sandra. It's about you looking at, okay, you give out this, what do you get in return? What are the areas where the government is earning forex? Where are those areas now? And unfortunately, the little that we earn from the oil sector, which accounts for about 80% of our foreign exchange earnings, we still throw it back into a very fraudulent subsidy regime. Now subsidy is back. All of the remittances are supposed to come from NFPC to the government. They are now using to do quasi-subsidy, if I want to borrow your word. So we are continuing to go into this vicious cycle of the, look, if we are not careful, Sandra, you know, that was how we started. We said, God forbid, 1,000 naira will eventually become $1. It has happened now, Sandra. As if we are not careful, hope will not wake up one day and discover that $1 is now exchanging for more than 2,000 naira. And it's a free fall. It is a free fall. The indices are there, that it is a free fall, and nothing will reverse this trend if we don't get very serious to fix our issues.
Fuad, may I ask a question though? What about introducing other currencies? I'm just looking at, introducing, bilateral trades with, other currencies, other countries, in order to be able to, one way or the other, bring down this dollar dominance.
Sandra, there's an international financial structure that has put the dollars ahead of any other currency. Even as, whether you like, the pound is stronger than the dollar, but everybody still trades in dollars. So whatever the American system has done, financial system has done, that has made it a global acceptable standard for everybody to trade in the dollars. I don't know how we want to do it. We have talked about using the Chinese currency in the past. It did not work. There are people who said, why are we trading, if we are trading with China, for example, why are we paying in dollars? But I'm sure a lot of the Chinese contractors will still pay to pay in dollars. They will not collect their own currency. They will still insist that you pay them in dollars. So again, those are just cosmetic arrangements to want to resolve this forex crisis, Sandra. I think what we should do is to focus on the real issue. How do we structure our economy? How do we position ourselves as a country, to begin to earn forex, to begin to earn more forex? Sandra, there are nations of the world that will tell you that their own currency against the dollar in the last 20 years has not shifted one bit. It has been stable against the dollar. For example, the UAE, they will tell you that their currency has been completely stable against the dollar. It is because of the country. Okay, look at Dubai, for example, the UAE. Look at a lot of the things giving them forex. Look at the money they are making through trade. Look at the money the forex they are making through tourism. Look at the forex they are even making through the oil sector. Do you see Saudi Arabia complaining about forex shortage in their country, Sandra? And it's an oil producing nation. So again, it all comes back to the fact that, look, as a country, we are not doing the right things. There's too much corruption in the system. And unfortunately, the people in government don't seem to want to do the hard work. They are looking for easy way out. And I'm sorry. It may sound as a bad news. I might sound alarmist. There's no easy way out of the problem. We have to do the hard work.
Well, there's a lot here as regards reactions from different experts in that field, but then we have to move very quickly now. That story is on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Well, moving on very quickly now, we have NNPCL swaps 2.6 trillion naira crude for refined products, and that's on page 20.
Here is the problem.
It's okay.
That was the money that would have come into the country, Sandra, in dollars.
But yeah, we're swapping.
You understand? We are swapping now.
Yeah, we're swapping. So the NNPCL...
For PMN, so not for money.
Exchange crude oil valued at 2.6 trillion naira for refined petroleum products. And that was just in 2021.
Sandra, that 2 point something trillion dollars would have been money that would have been in our economy.
That
if
should
we are
have
refining
been
locally.
yeah, that should have been about 5 point something billion dollars.
So see the way we are living our life.
So the way Nigeria is living our life.
This is why let's put it in Europe.
Well, this is quite unfortunate, but then the report has also shown that NNPCL lifted and exported a total of 24.84 million barrels of crude on behalf of the Federation in 2021. It said the sum of $1.58 billion was traced to the respective bank accounts as the actual sales received in 2021. There's a lot of receivables there, but then let the refineries work. That operators in the downstream sector have reportedly called on the federal government to intensify efforts in getting Nigeria's refineries to refine crude oil produced in the country. Oh my goodness, why is nobody saying anything about this, Fuad? Nobody's...
No, there's a December timeline for Port Harcourt refinery.
But Fuad,
Fuad,
do you remember how many deadlines we had last year that were supposed to elapse? October, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the rail line.
Let's keep hope alive on this one. December is here already.
Fuad,
just about 3 months.
When it comes to hope, I'm number one poster child for hope.
I want to be hopeful this morning.
So we wait then. But then they said we'll reduce the pressure on the naira. I don't think we can overemphasize.
That's not what we are just saying. It's the same thing we are saying now.
Yes. Well, let me just quickly run through the other stories. Outrage as bandits hold 21 Zamfara varsity female students.
Very, very sad. We are back to stories like this.
21.
We started with Lord Jonathan Chibok.
Yes.
It happened during the Buhari, the Kankara boys and some other schools. Now in Zamfara, now our girls have been abducted again.
Just for going to school, just because they decided to go to school,
Same story.
The stories on page 14 of the Punch newspaper. 21 Zamfara varsity female students have been picked. We also have here on the front page of the Punch, paid 2022 withheld salaries, ASU tells federal government. And that is on page 7 of the Punch. And finally, Ogun, APC and PDP trade words over Shagamu court killings. Look at that. They've turned it to something political. That's very interesting.
Some politicians were arrested. I think some PDP politicians were arrested. And they feel it's just a witch hunt, the government trying to paint them black. But the fact is that there's a court problem in Ogun State.
There is
and
a
I think
huge
not
problem in Ogun State. Yes, I agree with you. Yeah, okay. Still on trends in the papers. On the Punch newspaper, the major headline, federal government steps up action against rising insecurity as the president gives a marching order. And we have Ohaneze, ACF, that's Arewa Consultative Forum, raised dust over killings and kidnappings. And this is just coming on the hinge of the fact that last week, security operatives were killed in an ambush by suspected terrorists in Imo State. And then we also have the fact that in Gusau, capital of Zamfara, bandits invaded the campus of Federal University Gusau and kidnapped, some people, including students, non-teaching staff, construction workers, and so many others. So we have reactions on that one. But the story is on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. We also have here, don't tamper with nation's power assets during strike. Minister warns. Government...
They will just shut it down now. Yeah, they're not the ones in charge. When they go on strike, they just shut everything down. Simple.
All right. Then we also have here on page 17 of the Nation, very, very quickly, we've run out of time, what Cardoso should do as CBN boss. And that's coming from a financial expert. There's quite a lot that is being said here as regards, what he should do and what he should not do, pointing out the long-standing role as a catalyst for fiscal and monetary changes and what should be done and what should not be done, the responsibility of stabilizing the economy, although not just that of the CBN alone, but then as regards inflation, exchange rate and revenue shortages, the CBN has a role to play. And that is all we can take this morning on trends in the papers. Yes, we'll take a short break now. We'll be back by 8:40 for Mainland Focus where you, our dear listener, get to be a part of the conversation. All right. And just as we mentioned earlier on, we have an exclusive coming up by 9:30 today. So it's also important that you stay tuned all the way through this morning. We'll reveal that much later on in Milan Focus, what the exclusive will be about. Something that, has been a hot topic for a while now. So stay with us. This is Milan 98.3 FM, and we are the sound of Lagos.
Mainland 98.3 FM. Don't touch the dial. 98.3 FM. Don't touch the dial.